In this video, we're going over formulas that tonify, specifically formulas that tonify yin, formulas that tonify yang, and formulas that tonify both yin and yang. And this is actually an excerpt from a review course that I have published online that goes over all of the formulas on the NCCAOM list. But we'll talk more about that at the end. For now, here's formulas that tonify. So let's get started with our first category, formulas that nourish and tonify the yin. And our first one here is Liu Wei Dihuangwan, 6-ingredient with Romania pill. Or I think the newer version calls this 6-ingredient pill with Romania. But anyway, Liu Wei Dihuangwan, this is our main formula for kidney and liver yin deficiency. So here we're going to see a lot of our familiar signs and symptoms of yin deficiency. So soreness and weakness of the lower back. Remember, liver and kidney yin nourishes the tendons and bones. So if that yin is deficient, we're going to see weakness and soreness, especially in the low back because that's where the kidneys are. Lightheadedness, vertigo, tinnitus, diminished hearing. These are all signs that the yin is not going upward to nourish the head and face and sensory organs. Night sweats. Basically, when the kidney is deficient, it can't contain the fluids, so they leak out. And this especially happens at nighttime because that's the yin time of day. Spontaneous and nocturnal emissions, same story, but here we're talking about the kidney's ability to contain kidney essence, that it can leak out in cases of deficiency as well. Also, hot palms and soles, we call this 5-center heat or heat in the 5 hearts. A chronic dry sore throat because there's not enough yin moistening the throat. Toothache, wasting and thirsting disorder, blah, blah, blah. The tongue is going to be red with little coat, red because of the heat, little coat because there's not enough yin going upwards to form the coat on top of the tongue. The pulse is going to be rapid and thin. Rapid because of the heat. Heat makes things speed up. And when you say thin, we mean the vessel is thin in diameter because there's not enough yin substance to fill the vessel. So when we look at the composition of this formula, it turns out there's a lot we can say, and we'll try not to go too deep since this is supposed to be a review, but this formula actually started out as Jingui Shenqiwan, kidney qi pill, which is a kidney yang tonifying formula that we'll learn later in this section. But it turns out somebody took that formula and removed some of the warming ingredients, and we're left with this formula, Liu Wei Dihuangwan. And originally this was used for 5 delay syndrome in children, but over time it just became our standard formula for kidney yin deficiency. So like the name suggests, there are 6 ingredients, and like the name also suggests, the main ingredient is Shu Di Huang or Romania. Remember, Shu Di Huang comes from the category herbs that tonify blood, but it also has a very strong and very reliable action of tonifying kidney yin and tonifying kidney essence. So that's why we're using it here. And just as a side note, remember that for Romania, we have 2 versions. We have the raw version and the prepared version. So Shengdi Huang is raw Romania. It comes from the category herbs that cool the blood. And Shudi Huang is prepared Romania from the category herbs that tonify blood. Now, both of these herbs do their main category action, but they both have a second action of tonifying yin. It's just that Shengdi Huang is more about generating fluids and moistening dryness. We could call this lung and stomach yin. Whereas Shu Di Huang is more about the true yin of the kidneys, kidney yin, kidney essence. And so that's the one that we use in this formula. And it turns out that's going to be the main ingredient in a lot of our yin tonifying formulas. And I think this is just kind of funny because if you remember back to single herbs, we learned this entire category of herbs that tonify yin, and it turns out none of them are actually in this formula. So like we said, this formula has 6 ingredients. 3 of them are tonifying and 3 of them are draining. So the first 3, Shu Di Huang, Shanjuyu, Shanya, these are 3 tonifying herbs. They all begin with SH. And then Fuling, Mudan Pi, and Zixie are actually draining herbs. So remember, Mudan Pi is from the category herbs that cool the blood, but it also has an action of clearing deficiency heat. Zixie promotes urination, but we also say it calms ministerial fire, which is kind of like clearing deficiency heat. And Fuling promotes urination to drain dampness, and this is just to keep the water moving, to make sure that the fluids don't get clogged up by all of these tonifying herbs. So that's maybe a lot to say about this formula. For the purpose of review, we should probably just remember that Liu Wei is our main formula for yin deficiency, and we could say that this is a very balanced formula because it combines tonifying herbs with draining herbs, and that makes it a very balanced formula that we can safely use for more long-term applications. But it turns out Liu Wei this forms the basis of a lot of our other yin tonifying formulas, and it actually turns out we can have a lot of variations on this formula as well, such as our next one, Qiju Dihuangwan, Lycium fruit, chrysanthemum, and Romania pill. Qiju Dihuangwan, Lycium fruit, chrysanthemum, and Romania pill. And so this is a formula that tonifies yin, but it's especially good for eye problems. So dry eyes with diminished visual acuity, photophobia, tearing when exposed to drafts, and painful eyes. So if you look at the ingredients here, we start out with Liu Wei and then we just add on two more, gochitsa and juhua. So remember, gochitsa is goji berry. It's from the category herbs that tonify blood. Bensky puts it in the tonify blood category. Other books will put it in the tonify yin category, but gochitsa's specialty is that it brightens the eyes. Juhua is chrysanthemum flower. It's from the cool acid release the exterior category, and it also has a specialty of brightening the eyes. So basically here we took our main formula for tonifying yin, and we added in a couple ingredients that brighten the eyes, and we end up with a formula that tonifies yin to brighten eyes. So that's Qiju Dihuangwan. Another one we have is Zhibai Dihuangwan, Anamorena, Philodendron, and Romania pill, Zhibai Dihuangwan. So this one is for yin deficiency with vigorous fire, consumptive heat, or steaming bones. So here we're not just dealing with yin deficiency, we're also dealing with this vigorous heat that comes along with it. So we can see steaming bones, night sweats, or dry mouth and tongue. So again, we started with Liu Wei and then we added on two more, Zhimu and Huangbai. Remember, Zhimu is from the category herbs that drain fire, so it's very good at clearing heat, but it also has a specialty of clearing deficiency heat. Huangbai is one of the three huangs from the damp heat category. It clears damp heat from the lower jiao, but it also clears deficiency heat. So here we took our main formula for tonifying liver and kidney yin, we added in a couple herbs that clear deficiency heat, and we end up with a formula that's good for yin deficiency with a lot of heat. So that's Zhibai Dihuangwan. Our next one is a little bit weird. Du Qi Wan, capital Qi pill. Du Qi Wan, capital Qi pill. And unlike the other ones, this doesn't tell you the ingredients in the name, and that makes it a little bit harder to remember. But this one is for yin deficiency with leakage. So we can see chronic wheezing disorders in those who are always short of breath and begin wheezing with little exertion. So we could call this leakage of lung qi. Or premature ejaculation and spermatorrhea from kidney deficiency. So we could call this leakage of kidney essence. So we look at the ingredients here. We start out with Liu Wei Dihuangwan, and then we add in Wu Weizhi. Remember, Wu Weizhi, Schisandra berry, is from the category herbs that stabilize and bind, so it induces astringency to stop leakage. So again, we started off with this formula that tonifies liver and kidney yin. We added in an herb that stops leakage. We end up with a formula that's for yin deficiency with leakage. And again, this one is probably the more difficult one just because with the other two, it told you the ingredients in the name of the formula. So if you remember the actions of those ingredients, you can remember the actions of the formula. This one, you just have to remember that capital Qi pill means we're adding Wu Weizhi, and Wu Weizhi is for leakage. Next, we get into Zhuogui restore the left kidney pill. Zhuogui restore the left kidney pill. And the name here is a reference to a statement in the Nanjing where it basically says that the right kidney holds the kidney yang, or the ministerial fire, whereas the left kidney is the true kidney that holds kidney yin and kidney essence. So when we say restore the left kidney, we're talking about kidney yin. So this is the formula for yin deficiency. And here we see a lot of the same signs and symptoms: lightheadedness, vertigo, dizziness, tinnitus, those upper body symptoms, weakness in the low back and legs, spontaneous and nocturnal emissions, spontaneous and night sweats, dry mouth, throat, thirst. The tongue is red and shiny, the pulse is rapid and thin. So basically all of those same signs and symptoms for yin deficiency that we saw before with Liu Wei Dihuangwan. So how is this formula different from Liu Wei Dihuangwan? Well, you look in the ingredients, you see that we start off with those 3 tonifying herbs, Shu Di Huang, Shan Ju Yu, Shan Yao, that all start with SHs. But it turns out after that, instead of adding on draining herbs, we just added on more tonifying herbs. So again, gochitsa, goji berry, is either in the tonify blood or tonify yin category, depending on which book you read. Chuanyoshi is in the invigorate blood category, but it also has an action of tonifying liver and kidney yin to strengthen tendon and bone. Remember, Nyoshi means ox knees. It will make your knees as strong as an ox. Guiban Jiao is turtle shell gelatin, and Lu Jiao Jiao is deer antler gelatin. So here we're actually adding in animal substances, animal gelatins, to really augment kidney essence or augment the marrow and fill the essence. So how is this formula different? Well, in terms of the things that it treats, it's really not that different. All of these signs and symptoms look pretty much the same as Liu Wei Dihuangwan. What's different about it is the way that we're going about it, the strategy we're using to tonify. So with Liu Wei Dihuangwan, that was a very balanced formula that combined tonifying and draining herbs. With this formula, Zhuoguiwan, this is a pure tonifying formula. So we're just tonifying, no draining, not a balanced formula, but it's much stronger at doing its tonification. So maybe Liu Wei Dihuangwan is a little bit better to use long term because it's more balanced, whereas Zhuoguiwan is going to be a lot stronger at its tonification action. So that's really the only difference here. Remember, Zhuoguiwan, restore the left kidney pill. Left kidney means kidney yin, and we're strongly tonifying using some of these animal parts to tonify yin, tonify essence. And after that is Zhuogui Yin, restore the left kidney drink. So we had Zhuoguiwan, the pill, now we have Zhuogui Yin, restore the left kidney drink. This is the formula for kidney yin deficiency. How is it different? It's really not. It's just that this formula has fewer ingredients. And notice that we removed some of those animal parts. So we don't have the Lu Jiao Jiao, we don't have the Guiban Jiao. So it's still a pure tonifying formula, but it's a little bit more mild than Zhuoguiwan. But we're really just treating the same thing. So hopefully you won't ever have on a test where you have to differentiate Zhuoguiwan versus Zhuogui Yin. Really the difference is one is a pill, one is a drink. The pill is stronger because it has those animal parts. The drink is a little less strong and frankly probably cheaper because it doesn't have those animal parts. So that's the only difference here between Zhuoguiwan and Zhuogui Yin. And here we say restore the left kidney drink. It's technically a drink instead of decoction. I think all that means is you boil it for less time. So that's why it's a yin instead of a tong. I'm not sure that really makes a difference. So that's Zhuoguiwan and Zhuogui Yin. Next is Dabu Yinwan, Great Tonify the Yin Pill. Dabu Yinwan, Great Tonify the Yin Pill. And this one is for yin deficiency plus flourishing fire. So here we're not only dealing with deficient yin not nourishing the body's tissues, we're also dealing with the heat or flourishing fire that results from that deficiency. So here we're going to see a lot of heat signs like steaming bone disorder with afternoon tidal fever, night sweats, spontaneous emissions, irritability, sensation of heat and pain in the knees. Remember, the kidney governs the low back and the knees, so when we have kidney deficiency, it's very common to see issues in the knees. But here, since we're dealing with kidney yin deficiency, we're specifically going to see a sensation of heat and pain in the knees. The tongue is just like we expect, red with little coat, but the pulse, pay attention here, the pulse is rapid and forceful in the rear position. And this is maybe a little bit unusual. Usually when we're dealing with deficiency, we would expect the pulse to be thin, deficient, forceless, weak. But here we're saying it's forceful in the rear position. And that's that flourishing fire, that vigorous heat is causing the pulse to feel forceful in that kidney position. So that's a key sign that we want to pay attention to. We look at the ingredients here, like everything else. We start off with Shu Di Huang to Tonify Yin. Gui Ban is turtle shell. It's in the Tonify Yin category. And then we have our Dui Yao pair, Huang Bai plus Zhimu to clear heat. So that tells us that this formula is focused on clearing deficiency heat. So we look at the name of this formula, Great Tonify the Yin Pill. Of course, it's good for tonifying yin. That's obvious from the name of the formula. What we need to remember is that besides that, it's also clearing heat or dealing with this flourishing fire that results from the yin deficiency. So that's what we need to remember about Dabu Yin Wan, Great Tonify the Yin Pill. And here we can maybe also ask, how is this different from a previous formula we learned, Zhi Di Huang Wan? Because they're both for yin deficiency plus heat. They both have Shu Di Huang as their main ingredient. They both have Huang Bai and Zhimu to clear deficiency heat. So these formulas are very similar. I might say that Liu Wei Di Huang Wan is a little bit more focused on tonifying, whereas this one, Dabu Yin Wan, is a little bit more focused on clearing heat. But another thing we can point out here is that this one has Gui Ban, which again is turtle shell. So Gui Ban tonifies yin, but you can also think that turtle shell is like a heavy mineral. It's heavy and weighs things down. So Gui Ban also has an action of anchoring yang. So when you say that this formula directs fire downward, that's what we're talking about, is this Gui Ban is anchoring things downward. So we might use this more if we have especially heat signs in the upper body or yang rising as a result of that yin deficiency. So again, that's Dabu Yin Wan, Great Tonify the Yin Pill. Next is Yiguan Jin Linking Decoction. I really like this one. Yiguan Jin Linking Decoction. This one is for liver and kidney yin deficiency with qi stagnation. So we have liver yin deficiency plus liver qi stagnation. So here we see hypochondriac, epigastric, and chest pain. And this is a very common symptom of liver qi stagnation because that's where the liver channel traverses. So we see hypochondriac, epigastric, and chest pain, dry and parched mouth and throat because we're dealing with yin deficiency, acid reflux. The tongue is red and dry, and the pulse is thin and frail or deficient and wiry. So the name of this formula, linking decoction, this refers to a classical statement that the liver is yin in form, but yang in function. So when we say the liver is yin in form, yes, it's a yin organ, but it also has this action of storing the blood, which is a very yin thing to do. When we say the liver is yang in function, that's referring to moving the qi. The liver governs free coursing. The liver governs orderly reaching. It makes sure that the qi spreads outward to all the body's tissues. And these two functions are linked together. So here, when we have liver yin deficiency, the liver is deficient, so it's failing to perform its function of moving the qi. So we're using this formula to link those two functions back together, which I think is kind of interesting. So look at the ingredients. Our chief one here is gochitsa, goji berry. Again, Bensky puts this in the tonify blood category, but other books will put this in the tonify yin category because it tonifies liver, yin, and blood. Dongui, again, tonifies blood, but also invigorates blood. Then we have Shengdi Huang, Sha Shen, and Maimendong. These are about generating fluids and moistening dryness. We have this dry and parched mouth and throat, a red, dry tongue. So these ingredients are helping with that dryness. And then pay attention to this last one, Chuan Lienza, Tucindon fructus. Remember, Chuan Lienza is from the category herbs that regulate qi. And what makes this one stand out in that category is, number one, it regulates liver qi, so it's good for liver qi stagnation, but it's also cool in temperature, which is exactly what we want. So most of the qi regulating herbs there, most of them are warm in temperature. Chuan Lienza stands out because it's cool in temperature, which is nice because here we're dealing with a liver qi stagnation with heat signs. So that makes Chuan Lienza the perfect herb for this formula. So we have some herbs that are tonifying yin. We add in Chuan Lienza to move liver qi. This formula is for liver yin deficiency plus liver qi stagnation. So that's Yiguanjian linking decoction. Next is Argiron 2 solstice pill. Argiron 2 solstice pill. And this one is for liver and kidney yin deficiency, like everything in this category. So weakness and soreness of the low back and knees, dry and parched mouth and throat, blah, blah, blah. How is this formula different? Well, the name of this formula is 2 solstice pill, and that refers to the 2 ingredients, Nugenza and Mohan Lian. One is picked at the winter solstice, and one is picked at the summer solstice. So both of these herbs are from the category herbs that tonify yin. And we look, Nugenza tonifies liver and kidney yin, but it has a specialty of brightening the eyes and blackening the hair for premature graying of hair. Mohan Lian also tonifies liver and kidney yin, and it also has a specialty of blackening the hair for premature graying of hair. It also cools the blood and stops bleeding. So when you look at Argiron, yes, it's for liver and kidney yin deficiency, but if we want to say what makes it stand out, I would look for those symptoms. We have dizziness and blurred vision, because these herbs brighten the eyes, and we have premature graying of hair or loss of hair. So that's what I would look for in terms of Argiron 2 solstice pill. The other thing we can say about this formula is, remember, most of the formulas in this category are based on Shu Di Huang. And Shu Di Huang is very good at tonifying yin, but it's also thick, sticky, and cloying, and can very easily cause digestive problems. So Argiron, because it doesn't have Shu Di Huang, it's a little bit more mild in terms of tonifying yin, but it's not going to cause those digestive problems because these ingredients are not sticky and cloying like Shu Di Huang. And I believe that Bensky also says we can use this formula if we have yin deficiency plus bleeding, since Mohan Lian is good for cooling the blood to stop bleeding, but he doesn't actually mention that in the symptoms, that's just in the commentary. But that's what I think about for Argiron 2 solstice pill. Think of vision problems and premature graying of hair or loss of hair for Argiron 2 solstice pill. And finally in this section is Bai He Gujin Tang, lily bulb decoction to preserve metal. Bai He Gujin Tang, lily bulb decoction to preserve metal. And this one is for lung dryness due to lung yin deficiency plus kidney yin deficiency. So here, when we look at our signs and symptoms, we're going to see a combination of lung signs plus kidney signs. So coughing with blood-streaked sputum. The lungs are so dry, it starts to crack and you start bleeding. Wheezing, dry and sore throat due to lung yin deficiency. Then we see hot palms and soles and night sweats, very classic signs of kidney yin deficiency. The tongue is red with little coat and the pulse is rapid and thin, just like we expect. So, as the name suggests, the chief herb here is Bai He. Remember, Bai He is from the category herbs that tonify yin, but its specialty is tonifying lung yin. So that's how we know we're dealing with lung yin deficiency. Here, interestingly, we have a combination of Sheng Di Huang plus Shu Di Huang. So remember we said that Sheng Di Huang, it tonifies yin, but it's a little bit better at generating fluids and moistening dryness, basically lung and stomach yin, whereas Shu Di Huang is better for the true yin of the kidneys, kidney yin, kidney essence. And here, since we're dealing with both lung deficiency and kidney yin deficiency, we're using both forms, Sheng Di Huang plus Shu Di Huang. Then we have some other lung yin tonics. Chuan Bei Mu, remember, is from the transformed phlegm category. It's good for coughing and phlegm, but remember Chuan Bei Mu is sweet and it has this action of moistening the lungs. So it's very good for this coughing with blood-streaked sputum. So again here, when we look at the name of the formula, hopefully this can tell you about what it treats. Bai He is especially good for lung yin deficiency. If you forget that, the part about preserving metal should clue you in that we're dealing with a lung problem. What we have to remember is that this is not only lung yin deficiency, it's lung yin deficiency plus kidney yin deficiency. So that is Bai He Gujin Tang, lily bulb decoction to preserve metal. Next is formulas that warm and tonify the yang. So these are yang tonifying formulas, starting out with Shenqi Wan, kidney qi pill. Shenqi Wan, kidney qi pill. And this also sometimes goes by the name Jingui Shenqi Wan. And those first two words, Jingui, just refer to the book that it was written in, the Jingui Yalue by Zhong Zhongjing, Prescriptions from the Golden Cabinet. So I think throughout history, we had several formulas that were named kidney qi pill. So if you say Jingui Shenqi Wan, that specifies that you're talking about the one from the Jingui Yalue. But really, this is by far the most famous one. So if you just say Shenqi Wan, everyone will know that this is the one you're talking about. But anyway, Shenqi Wan is our main formula for kidney yang deficiency. So here we see a lot of signs and symptoms of kidney yang deficiency, like lower back pain, weakness of the lower extremities, cold sensation in the lower half of the body. So remember, the kidneys are in the low back, they're in the lower jowl, they govern the lower body. So in cases of kidney deficiency, we're going to see a lot of symptoms in the lower body, especially coldness, tenseness in the lower abdomen, irritability, either urinary difficulty with edema or excessive urination and incontinence. So here, because kidney yang is deficient, it's not properly transforming the fluids, so we end up with urination problems, a very common symptom of kidney yang deficiency. The tongue is going to be pale and swollen, pale because of the coldness, and swollen because the fluids aren't being transformed, so those fluids collect in the tongue and cause it to swell up. The pulse is going to be empty or frail and submerged and faint in the proximal position, so deep and weak in the kidney position because of kidney deficiency. So again, when we look at the composition of this formula, there's a lot of things we can say about it. This is the formula that was the basis for Liu Wei Dihuangwan. So here we have our 3 tonifying herbs, Shu Dihuang, Shanjuyu, Shanyao, all starting with SHs. We have 3 draining herbs, Zixie, Fuling, and Mudan Pi. And then we have 2 warming herbs, Futsa and Roguei. Futsa is aconite and Roguei is cinnamon bark. These are hot herbs that come from the category herbs that warm the interior. They're very good at warming the kidney and tonifying kidney yang. And these were the 2 ingredients that were removed to turn this formula into Liu Wei Dihuangwan. So this is a formula by Zhong Zhongjing, and very characteristic of his formulas is, on the one hand, we could say these formulas are very balanced, but kind of what we mean by that is they have a lot of opposites going on at the same time. So like in this formula, we have some herbs that tonify yang and some herbs that tonify yin. Some herbs are warming and some herbs are cooling. Some herbs are tonifying and some herbs are draining. Some herbs induce astringency and hold things in. Other herbs promote urination and move things out. So what's going on here? Why do we have all of these opposites? Well, one thing we should think about is generally as a treatment strategy, especially if we're dealing with herbs, is we say that if you're going to tonify yang, you must also tonify yin as well. Because if you just give a person a bunch of warm, hot medicinals to tonify yang, that can end up burning away the yin, and you will actually shorten the person's lifespan and make everything worse. So if you're going to tonify yang, you must also tonify yin at the same time, so you're not burning the candle from both ends. So that's why we have yang tonics like Futsa, Roguei, and Shanjuyu to tonify yang, but then we have Shu Dihuang to tonify yin as well. Another thing we can think about is, look at this last one, either urinary difficulty with edema or excessive urination and incontinence. So it's like either we have urinary retention, the fluids aren't getting out, so your body swells up, or we have excessive urination. You can't hold things in, things keep flowing out to the point that you have incontinence. So these are 2 opposite things. How can they happen? How can one formula treat both of these things at the same time? Well, here's one way to think about it. Think about the kidney, the UB, the urethra. You can maybe think that between those, there's a gate that opens and closes. When the gate is open, the fluids can come out, and when the gate is closed, the fluids stay in, and so they don't leak or dribble out. And so we can think that this gate, the opening and closing of this gate, is powered by the kidney yang, or the kidney qi. So if kidney yang or kidney qi is deficient, this gate can get stuck, either stuck in the open position or stuck in the closed position. So if the gate is stuck open, everything's just leaking out. You have excessive urination and incontinence. If the gate is stuck closed, you have urinary retention and edema. And so that's kind of what we're doing with some of these herbs. It's like we're hitting the reset button on that gate. So we have some herbs that induce astringency and hold things in, but other herbs that promote urination and move things out. So it's kind of like we're trying to reset the opening and closing of that gate. So that's at least one way to think about it. But I like to point that out because I feel like this is a key symptom for this formula, either urinary difficulty with edema or excessive urination and incontinence. And this is maybe how we can differentiate it from some of our other warming formulas like Zhenwu Tong, True Warrior Decoction. So that is Shen Qi Wan Kidney Qi Pill. It's our main formula for kidney yang deficiency. And I would especially look for these urination problems because kidney yang is not properly transforming the fluids. So that's Shen Qi Wan Kidney Qi Pill. Next, kind of following along our pattern from before, is Yogui Wan, Restore the Right Kidney Pill. Yogui Wan, Restore the Right Kidney Pill, because again, the left kidney holds the kidney yin or kidney essence, but the right kidney holds the ministerial fire and the kidney yang. So Restore the Right is referring to tonifying kidney yang. So this is for kidney yang deficiency, exhaustion from long-term illness, aversion to cold, coolness of the extremities, impotence, spermatorrhea, aching and weakness of low back and knees, infertility, loose stools, possibly with undigested food, blah, blah, blah. And so here it's kind of the same thing before, that our ingredients at first look a lot like Shen Qi Wan. We have Fuzi Ro Gui as our warming herbs, and then we have our three tonifying herbs, Shu Di Huang, Shan Zhu Yu, and Shan Yao. And now, instead of adding in those draining herbs, we deleted those draining herbs and just added in more tonifying herbs. So we have Lu Jiao Jiao, deer antler gelatin, Gochitsa, goji berry. It tonifies yin, but like we said, when we tonify yang, we must also tonify yin at the same time. Tu Sitsa, Kuskitai seed, tonifies yang. Duzhong tonifies yang. Dongui tonifies blood. So we started with our Shen Qi Wan and we removed those draining herbs that kind of balanced out the formula, and we just added in more tonifying herbs. So kind of the same story as before. This is a formula of pure tonification. It's not as balanced as Shen Qi Wan, so it's when you just want to tonify, and it's maybe not as suitable for long-term use. Maybe, and just as a single herb, I might point out Duzhong Eucomia cortex. Remember this, it's stretchy, it looks like tendons, it's a latex plant or Chinese rubber. And this one, it has a specialty of it tonifies yang, but it's one of our best herbs for strengthening the low back. So when you have aching and weakness of the low back and knees, Duzhong is an herb that's especially good for that. But that's Yogui Wan, Restore the Right Kidney Pill. Again, this is a formula about pure tonification. And like in our last section, we also have a Yogui Yin, Restore the Right Kidney Drink. Yogui Yin, Restore the Right Kidney Drink. And this is also for kidney yang deficiency. And you see, again, same story. It looks very similar. We have our Shu Di Huang, Shan Zhu Yu, Shan Yao, our three tonifying herbs. We have our Fuzi and Ro Gui to be warming. The only difference here is we don't have those animal parts like Lu Jiao Jiao. So this isn't as strongly tonifying. It's a little bit more mild. I mean, honestly, it's a little bit cheaper. Some of those animal parts, when we have the Zuogui Wan and Zuogui Wan and Yogui Wan, the Lu Jiao Jiao, the Gui Ban Jiao, some of those parts are very expensive. You can also think of this like a cheaper alternative if you can't afford that deer antler. So kind of the same thing, just a little bit more mild, and but also still about pure tonification. And finally, we have formulas that tonify both the yin and the yang. So here we have a dual deficiency of yin and yang. We're going to tonify both at the same time. And here the only formula we learn is Xian Tong, 2 immortal decoction. Xian Tong, 2 immortal decoction. And really, we could say this is a formula for kidney yin and yang deficiency with fire flaring up. So both the yin and the yang are deficient and the heat is rising upward. But really what this formula is for symptoms of menopause. So especially hypertension during menopause. So hypertension, menstrual irregularity, hot flashes, sweating, nervousness, fatigue, lassitude, depression, irritability, insomnia, palpitations, frequent urination. So these are just very common symptoms of menopause. So actually what's going on here is this is more of a modern formula. This is a formula that was created in the 1950s, and it was created specifically to address this syndrome. It was created specifically to treat hypertension during menopause. And so this is a good example of combining traditional and modern techniques. So from the traditional side, the way we're going to treat these symptoms of menopause is by tonifying kidney yin and yang. But on a more modern side, when we look at the ingredients, if you look in your Chen and Chen Chinese herbal medicine and pharmacology, you'll see that a lot of these ingredients we've done research to show that they have some effect at lowering high blood pressure. And so we're kind of taking this dual approach of tonifying yin and yang, but also using herbs that are specifically good for lowering high blood pressure. So Xian Mao, Yin Yang Huo, Ba Ji Tian all come from the category herbs that tonify yang. Again, we see this Dui Yao pair, Huang Bai plus Jurmu to clear deficiency heat. And as for the name of this formula, 2 immortal decoction, this refers to the first 2 ingredients. Xian means immortal, Xian Mao. And it turns out Yin Yang Huo, horny goatweed, Yin Yang Huo can also go by the name Xian Ling Pi, which means immortal spirit spleen. So Yin Yang Huo also is Xian Ling Pi, and those are 2 xians for our Xian Tong. So on the one hand, we can think of this as a formula that tonifies both yin and yang, but in terms of its practical application, this is a more modern formula that was specifically created to treat symptoms of menopause, especially hypertension during menopause. So that is our formulas that tonify both the yin and the yang. That ends our formulas that tonify. So let's go ahead and do a quick review. Like we said at the beginning, this video comes from a formula review course that is currently available on teachable.com. The link is in the description below. I just wanted to take a minute to walk you through what's included in this course. So as you can see here, the main part of the course is divided up into 3 modules because that's how we did it when I was in school. With each section, there's a handout that summarizes the formulas, including ingredients, actions, and indications. Tongue and pulse are in a separate column because that can really help you when it comes to answering test questions. Then we have videos for each of the categories. And kind of the idea here is we're not just going over the formulas, we're also going over the single herbs that make up the formula, the Dui Yao pairs, the Zong Fu patterns, tongue and pulse, and other indications that go along with those patterns. So it's kind of like you're studying multiple things at once as we go through these formulas. And each of these modules has a practice test that goes with it. A couple of cool things about this is, 1, after you answer the questions, it gives you an explanation or an extra tip about why that answer is correct. And also, both the questions and the answers are randomized. So if you hit refresh or take the test again later, it will change the order of the questions, the order of the answers, and which choices appear. So each time you take the test, it's kind of like a new test. One of the most common questions I get is, how long do you have access to this course once you buy it? Well, it's not a subscription. It's currently $49. You pay for it once and then you own it forever. So it's lifetime access. I'm not a big fan of these subscription services. So the idea here is you can buy the course while you're still in school. And when you have, say, your Formulas 2 final, you can review the Formulas 2 section. When you get to your comps or your clinic entrance exams, you can go back and review the whole thing. And then when you get to your boards, you can use it again to prepare for boards. So it's not like a 1-month subscription. It's a course that you buy once, own forever, and it's meant to be used multiple times. So if you're interested, there's a link in the description below. It's $49. Check it out, and we'll see you next time.